I grew up as the quiet Asian kid who barely spoke in the classroom. Look, here's me. I was afraid to look stupid, so I stayed silent. And if you were to tell me 30 years ago that I would have the confidence and the courage to post videos online and share my life, I would not believe you. So how did this evolution come to be? Well, that's what I want to talk about in this video, and I want to share the story of how I changed from being a shy, quiet Asian kid to a confident creator and entrepreneur. And as I share this story, I'll give takeaways that can help you in finding your voice as well. So first, the backstory. I grew up in a Chinese American household in the San Francisco Bay Area. And in my culture, there are definite values that are modeled to me, such as humility, working hard, not drawing attention to myself, and not rocking the boat. So there was the cultural component, and then there was also the component of me being female and growing up in a Christian culture as well. My Christian faith is definitely core to my life still. And I've had to navigate that of what humility really looks like, and is it false humility or really humility? Basically, I grew up with these values that were passed down from my culture, my faith, or society. So I would stay quiet, especially in the classroom and at work. With my friends, I would have a pretty funny personality. I can be pretty outgoing and pretty witty, but when I enter the classroom or the workplace, I just wouldn't share my thoughts. And part of that is perfectionism too. It's, okay, my thoughts have to be completely packaged perfectly before they're worthy of sharing, but that really held me back. So I kept ideas in my head, fearing that they weren't good enough. And in my 20s, I definitely followed a prescribed version of success that was modeled to me or handed down. So I graduated college, worked abroad, and then I eventually landed a job at Google. And after that, I got my MBA. And then after that, I was a startup tech marketer. And there are highs and lows in that journey, but if I want to share the highlight reel, that's essentially what it was. So I followed this path, and I was essentially chasing an idea of success that was handed down, but I really didn't know who I was or my voice. And that is to be expected when you are in your 20s, right? You're exploring and figuring out who you are. I remember those feelings of after graduating college and not really knowing what I wanted to do with my life. But as we've gotten older, we've all seen that no one really knows. But it can be challenging to try and find your voice when you're getting all these conflicting messages. And it can be challenging for you to know where your confidence comes from. But in the midst of that, I did have one thing that always grounded me, and that was journal writing. No matter what was happening on the outside, I always was really intentional about knowing who I was or trying to discover who I was and doing the inner work. So I would constantly journal, ask myself questions such as, what do you want? What do you desire? What is it about the situation that's bothering you? If you journaled for decades and you constantly ask yourself, what's the meaning of this? What's the purpose? What am I doing? You will gain some confidence and clarity along the way if you couple that with action. So I think that's what I really did is I journaled, and then I would couple that with action. And even earlier on in my career, okay, you don't know what you want to do. I would, reflect on things and I would try things, and maybe it didn't work out, but at least I was always moving forward. So you want to combine mindset with action, and that's really how confidence comes about, and not being stuck in this fear analysis paralysis situation. But I would definitely say me journal writing for all those years laid the foundation for me having a voice and me being confident and me even showing up on camera like I do these days. And the takeaway for you is what you do in the darkness when no one is watching is what will prepare you for when you are in the spotlight. I can strongly say this, being a creator and entrepreneur, you deal with many different things. And when you put your life online, you invite hate. And I've been through intense cyberbullying in the past, but because I had journaled and I knew who I was and my purpose, that enabled me to keep going. It all starts with the inner work and knowing who you are. Those quiet reflections, journaling all those years when no one was watching, that gives me the confidence now to show up on camera, to share my life, to share vulnerable things such as, I used to work in Silicon Valley, then I left my job, or even more recently sharing about reinvention at 40 and being 40 single and child free. So you might be saying, all right, that's great, Joanna, reflect and know who you are, but how did you make that bridge from, all right, you know who you are and you do the inner work, to showing up with confidence online and being on video? And I would say it all started with the breaking point. Sometimes you have moments in your life where you just hit a low and you realize you just got to go for it in life. I had a breaking point in my life that came around 30 years old. As context, in my 20s, I had achieved a lot, right? I worked at Google, I got my MBA, and then when I graduated with my MBA, I came back to the Bay Area and I was looking for a job that was the right fit for me. And during that time, I became a caregiver to some loved ones who were going through health problems, whether it was physical health or mental health. And if you have been a caregiver, you understand how challenging it can be. And for me, I felt very lost in other people's stories. And as a caregiver, you can really put yourself and your story to the back burner. And that's what I did. When I was 30, I really realized a lot about mental health and how it had shaped my childhood, and specifically the shame and the silence around mental health. And that was really challenging for me. And I just hit this breaking point of, wow, like the reason I am the way I am is because I grew up and I saw a lot, but no one really talked about it. That was really challenging. And even as I talk about it now, you can tell that I'm not giving specific details because I want to honor other people's stories and not share stories that are not mine to tell. But basically, that silence was suffocating, and I felt very alone in it. I felt alone in that I couldn't talk to people about mental health, people who would really understand my situation. So what I did is I joined a mental health support group. And there are two mental health organizations, or two main ones that I know of. One is NAMI and one is DBSA. I joined a mental health support group, and for the first time in my life, I felt seen by people who knew my true story. It wasn't the story of, oh, you know, she's really adventurous, she travels, she worked at Google, she got her MBA, she's successful, or whatever, the story of someone who's really put together. For the first time, I think people saw me in my pain. And that was really meaningful. It's really meaningful when you can go into a room with other people and share something that is so close to your heart and not be judged for it. We would all go around and share why we were there, and the stories you would hear would be something like, oh, I'm here because my son, you know, tried to take his life. Or someone would say, oh, I'm here because my father was diagnosed with schizophrenia and I got a call from the police that he's in another state. Just all these different things. When you can talk about subjects that there's such shame around, that alleviates the shame and it makes you feel known. And that was really powerful for me, for hitting that breaking point and then being around others who understood. And, you know, during those moments, it was a period of years I went to a mental health support group, but I really realized the power of telling your story, and I'm all about that. But just being in the room with people, and I didn't know anything else about them, but I would know something so close to their heart, and I would know the hardest things that they have been through, and just to hear someone else's story and to hold it and to not judge and to just see them, it was incredibly meaningful. And just the look in people's eyes, just saying like, hey, I see you. I see everything that you've been through. I see how you've been a caregiver and how you've poured of yourself. I see your own mental health struggles and everything. That was really the breaking point and the turning point for me is, you know, sharing my story in a safe community and being seen. That gave me courage and that gave me confidence. And one takeaway for you here can be your voice is found in safe community. Being seen and heard is healing. When you have these life moments that are really transformative, you just realize like you can't stay silent anymore. With everything you've learned and with everything you've been through, you know that you are called to help other people and you know you have a message and you need to share it. So that's what kind of transitioned to me doing videos. This next section is about finding your voice. So during this time, I was working in Silicon Valley as a marketer at early stage startups. And I would help other people build their brand or their company or their business. And I would run influencer marketing campaigns and I would see other influencers create content. And I was like, I think I can do better than this. Or I would just be like, why am I helping someone else build their company and their brand, but I'm not doing it for myself? And don't get me wrong, I see the value in working for others. And I'm so glad I did, because I gained skills that help me now as an entrepreneur, that help me now as a creator. But sometimes we can put our own desires to the side. We can just help other people build their dream. But if we have a dream within us as well, like, why not us? Like, why can't I pursue it? I always had this vision of wanting to do my own thing. And I would look at other people online who built a business or their brand off their own name, whether it was Brene Brown or Marie Forleo. And I thought, wow, this is very interesting. Can I do this? And I realized, to do that, you have to put content out there, whether it's blogs or videos or podcasting. So I remember, like, me and my friend, we were accountability partners, and I had this idea of like, oh, I want to do videos, but I was so scared. I was so scared to put myself out there. And really what helped is just starting small and taking the next step. So even doing a full-blown YouTube video, that seemed very overwhelming. So what I would do is I would just start on Instagram stories, just last for 24 hours. So it's okay. And I would start sharing my face. I would start sharing stories there. And that built confidence because, I would show a bit of my personality, and people or my friends who followed me would react. And this is when I had, I don't know, maybe like 400 followers on Instagram. So I did that, and that built my confidence. And, then I would write a blog post and share that, and I would see people react to that. So I wrote some blogs back in the day about like 11 things to know about being a tall Asian girl. And I remember that was actually a good breaking point a good breakthrough, because I remember when I posted that, and I shared it on Facebook, so many people came through and they were like, wow, Joanna, this is really funny, or it's really good. You have a unique voice. And that's not saying that you do things for the validation of other people, but I did realize, okay, Joanna, your voice can reach people. So I continued to write. I would write about different things, even things like, how I dealt with unemployment and got through that. And people would reach out to me with very meaningful comments. And that's when I realized my words had the ability to connect. So then I thought, okay, I want to do that. Let's try and do a YouTube video. And it scared me so much, but this was in 2017, so now it's 2025. So this is like 8 years ago. But I was so scared to do videos by myself. So I said, I gotta get someone to do it with me. My mom will lie. So I made my mom do it with me, and I convinced her that it would help with my career. And what Asian mom would say no to that? You wanna help your daughter's career. So we started doing videos. And for my first 10 YouTube videos, they were all with my mom, because I was so scared to be on video by myself, and I didn't think I had enough like worthwhile thoughts to share with the universe. So I kind of hid behind my mom, if I'm honest. And maybe you can relate. Maybe you're a parent, and instead of sharing your story or your voice, you hide behind your children. Or like, even if you're super proud of them and you're like, oh, look what my children have done. And yes, your children have done amazing things, and you're proud of them, and you have your own voice too, and you have your unique story that can help other people. So I kind of did that with my mom. I would like hide behind my mom, because I'm like, oh, I think my mom is really funny, and people are more interested in her. For 3 years, I did that when I had the time. And then in 2020, I moved from San Francisco to Hawaii. And my friend told me to start sharing my journey on TikTok. So I did, and that's when I grew a following to like 2,200 followers overnight, which for me was a big deal at the time, because before that, the most followers I had was like 500 on Instagram, and then my YouTube videos would get maybe, I don't know, 100 views, which honestly, still to this day, some of my videos only get 100 views, but that's okay, I keep going. So anyway, so I started sharing my journey of like leaving Silicon Valley and moving to Hawaii. I grew my community then on TikTok, and I felt a lot of freedom because I just created, and I didn't worry what other people had to think about me, or I didn't worry about what other people think. And I sometimes that's a huge block when you're creating content, or when you're trying to do something new. You think, okay, what are other people going to think of me, especially those in your inner circle, and especially if you come from like a very high achieving culture, or in my case, Silicon Valley. People are very successful, and you don't want to look stupid, or you don't want to be seen in the process of trying something new and not being good, right? Because you're so used to being good at everything sometimes. Doing TikTok videos and realizing that no one was watching me was very freeing, so I could just create and do whatever I wanted. That freedom really allowed me to just say whatever I wanted, and that's how I grew my community, and that's how I found my voice. And it was definitely through repetitions as well. So I moved to Hawaii. I didn't really have any close friends, and this was during the pandemic. So I'd create like 2 or 3 videos a day, and if you do that for a year, you're going to get better. You're going to gain some confidence, and you're going to find your voice. That's really how I gained the confidence, is just step by step and continuing to do that. I started on TikTok, and then I started, sharing on Instagram as well, and now YouTube. So it's just all been a process. And the takeaway for you is confidence doesn't come before you start. It comes from starting. I always say, you don't wait to have confidence and then do the thing that scares you. You do the thing that scares you and gain confidence in the process. And I can show up confidently as a creator and do videos because I know how many reps I've put in. I know the work that I've done, and I know how I kept promises to myself, how I just kept going. I kept going when I would only get 10 views. I keep going now, even when some YouTube videos flop and they don't get that many views. It's just continuing to show up and have those repetitions. That's what builds confidence. So now that leads me to present day and where I'm at now. And currently, I have about 300,000 followers across all my different social media accounts. I've created over 1,500 videos, and my content is aligned with who I am. And that is one of the things I'm most proud of, is I have grown by being true to myself, by being authentic. I haven't really followed any trends. I haven't copied any people. I've done it in a way that's true to me. And I would say about being a confident creator and showing up online, it is not about you having the most views. It's not about you having the most followers or you making the most money. It's really about you showing up in a way that is true to you and being authentic. And that's where my confidence comes from. Even more recently, I have shared about reinvention at 40 and being 40 single and child free. And that was so scary for me to do because as a female, society tells us our value is in our youth and beauty. It was scary to share, but I realized that content was so authentic to who I was. And by me sharing my story, I gave other people a voice and I let other people be heard. And honestly, that's why on Instagram, I've grown within the last 90 days, over 50,000 followers. And I have about 140K followers on Instagram now. I'm proud of myself. My confidence comes from being able to share stories like that and share so authentically. And I'm not saying you have to share these deep stories. I'm just saying I know my purpose and I know my calling, and that's why I do it. So even as you think about sharing your story online or putting your voice out there, think of what is your purpose? What is your why? And then that will help guide the content you create. So for me, I know my why. So whenever I talk to God, I ask him, God, what should I do? And he always says, tell your story, because your story points to me. And I think, okay, I'm called to tell stories that really touch people's life and pierces their heart. So that's why I'll tell stories about reinvention at 40 or being 40 single and child free. I'll share about, okay, I moved back to the Bay Area to be closer to my elderly parents. I don't really hear those stories online. And that's why I talk about it, because we need more real stories. And I share that with you to say confidence comes from you knowing who you are and your why, and then following through on that. So you might be called to something different. Maybe your thing is, okay, I am called to teach people how to manage their finances well. Cool, then your videos will be about financial education. Your videos, you can talk about what you have been through, how you got out of debt and make this much money now. That is what you're called to, and that's beautiful. Maybe you're called to help people live healthier lives. Cool, you can do that many different ways. So maybe how you share your story is through telling what you've been through and then also teaching people exercise tips or nutrition tips. So the confidence comes from really knowing your why and then being able to translate that when you share your story and your content online. So that's one thing. And I would also say another thing that has helped me be a confident creator is facing adversity. So earlier on in my journey, I went through extreme cyberbullying. TikTok is crazy for cyberbullying, but that was 4 years ago. And when you are stalked and the police had to get have to get involved and you just read all these hate comments about yourself, it can really do a number on your mental health. And it was really intense that time. Maybe I'll do a separate video about this, about how I went through cyberbullying. Being able to walk through cyberbullying, being able to be shredded apart online, like people were shredding me apart, and to still come through that and say, no, I believe strongly in myself. I believe in the content I'm sharing and my message and my story, and I know the intentions of my heart. And for me to overcome cyberbullying and to keep sharing online and to walk through that, like that built confidence in myself. And honestly, like other people saw it too. Other people saw, oh, wow, this girl really went through it and she's still showing up. It built this confidence in me, but it also built this respect for who I am and like knowing why I do what I do. So when you create videos and you share your life, like you are going to get hate at some point, but if you know your why, you can keep going. And when you go through that adversity and you just keep moving forward, that builds confidence in you too. All right, and the takeaway for you is you become confident when you show up as your authentic self. You are expressing yourself and you're not performing for anyone. And that is how I went from being a quiet Asian kid to a confident creator and entrepreneur who puts himself out there online. Basically, I did the inner work and I knew who I was. And then I hit this breaking point. I knew I couldn't stay silent. So I kept taking small steps again and again and again. I kept trying to find my voice. And there's no one magical moment. It just comes from the repetition and continuing to show up and keeping the promises to yourself. And knowing that your message and what you're doing is important and it can help other people. So that's why you continue to show up. So let me know what from this video resonates with you. And if you want to start sharing your story with truth and showing up authentically online, I would love to guide you. I invite you to check out the Story Courage Lab. It's a 30-day storytelling program where I teach you how to turn your life story into content that connects. We all have a story within us. I take you through the self-discovery process of, hey, what are my strengths? What's my story? What story should I share that will connect with others? How do I create content and all of it? I'm super excited about this program. I've had really good reviews already from those who've gone through it. So if you want to check it out and learn more, you could go to storycouragelab.com. I'll also put the link for it in the description and comments below. All right, and that's it for this video. And until next time, stand tall in who you are.